With over 20 years of combined recruitment experience, Bastion is your trusted advisor for sourcing leaders. Technical experts in supply chain recruitment, Bastion uses a proven customer-focused delivery. Speak to a consultant today for your recruitment needs. Bastion, experts in sourcing leaders that deliver change.
Welcome to Last Mile on Import Export TV, your global channel for all things import, export and supply chain, with Last Mile focusing on the challenges of retailers and all supply chain participants meeting the last mile requirements of ever increasingly demanding customers. Today we're very excited to bring you a whole episode on IoT, the Internet of Things. It's not about Apple or Garmin watches. It's not about how my phone spies on me and passes information to hackers trying to get presidents elected. Nothing to do with any of that. It's all to do with IoT in the rough and tumble world of logistics and how it's worked in the real world up and down the East Coast, tracking assets across Australia. We'll be right back and get started. Thanks for joining us, and our theme for today is IoT a game changer in the supply chain, or is it just hype? To help us understand a lot more about IoT and its role in the supply chain, let us introduce our expert panel for today. Anthony Stewart from Thinxtra, Australia's leading IT telco. Anthony is Thinxtra's head of sales and a leader in the IoT telecommunications and technology. Thinxtra's mission is to bring the next generation of IoT infrastructure to Australia to enable business to connect their assets and become more efficient by making them work smarter. We also have Michael Winter from LOSCAM. Michael is LOSCAM's Customer Solutions Manager and IoT Asset Tracking Champion. LOSCAM is Asia Pacific's leading pallet and returnable packaging solutions service provider. We also have Caine from Active Supply Chains. Caine is Active's Operations GM and New Tech Applications WizKid. Active are a leading supply chain solutions provider here in Australia and New Zealand. Okay, so jumping right in, what is IoT and what does it mean to the supply chain industry? And we'll start with Anthony.
Thanks, Craig. So look, put simply, IoT, or the Internet of Things, is the concept of connecting an object to a network for the purpose of collecting and analysing data to inform an action or process. It's quite important to the supply chain industry because it allows visibility of assets as they move through a supply chain. And so that may be the condition or a location or other informative piece of information that allow people to make better decisions.
So the concept of IoT has been around a really long time. So is it delivering or is it hype?
So look, when the concept of IoT first emerged about 15 years ago, a lot of people got very excited because of the potential that it promised. But I think it's fair to say that the hype at that time was a little bit premature because the available technology could only support a very narrow number of use cases. Fast forward a few years, and in more recent years, the technology has evolved a long way, as has the understanding of how to apply that technology. And we're now able to connect a much broader class of asset, much more inexpensive assets, and for longer duration due to long battery life. So that's really changed the game of how IoT can impact supply chains. And we're starting to see that the hype become reality.
And so what role does Thinxtra play in IoT?
So Thinxtra is an IoT telco, and put simply, we help customers solve business problems through the implementation or the enablement of IoT. We do that by matching IoT technology with the types of assets our customers have to achieve the business outcome they're looking for at the lowest possible cost. So when LOSCAM came to us and explained some of the challenges that their customers had with visibility of their stillages and IBCs through their network, we saw a perfect fit with Thinxtra's Zero-G IoT network. So this is a low-power network that is nationwide, that is publicly available, and allows Michael to connect his assets for between 3 to 5 years at a very low cost of data acquisition. So it was a perfect fit for the business problem that Michael brought to us, and that's where the partnership between Thinxtra and LOSCAM started.
And so to finish off this opening, around IoT and where that fits in, RFID. So everyone's heard of RFID, but that's been around for many decades. Yep, and it's only just now beginning to get good traction. Yep. So what's the main differences?
So look, RFID is a great technology in that you can tag an asset for a very low cost, but in order to read that tag, there's a significant infrastructure expense. And so this limits the number of areas where you can gather data from your assets. So if you are sending an asset from one known location to another, RFID is a great technology. However, if you want to have visibility along the way, or you're dealing in an open loop situation where you don't necessarily control the endpoint of the asset, then having a ubiquitous network like the Thinxtra 0G network is the right fit for purpose for solving that IoT problem.
Terrific. Well, thanks for that. And I think what we'll do is we'll take a very short break, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss the actual application of IoT in the rough and tumble world of assets up and down the east coast of Australia. The application of IoT in supply chains. So we've just heard how cool IoT is, right? And we all know a little bit about it because we've got IoT on our iPhones and other things every day. But Michael, why did LOSCAM turn to IoT, and what challenges were you specifically trying to solve?
Sure. So LOSCAM has been around for 75 plus years, and we supply various types of returnable packaging solutions to various types of supply chains. So that includes IBCs, foldable bins, and especially what we support Active with, and that is the GPAC stillages. And that is what we've done the track and trace solution for. So LOSCAM really wanted to lead the way in asset management. So what we wanted to be able to offer our customers was a way to mitigate the risk of loss. Freeing up bottlenecks in supply chains, the ability to provide a platform to be able to do digital stock takes, and also an online access through our customer-facing system for customers to manage their fleet of equipment.
Cool. So the exact application in this instance, Caine, is what? What are we tracking?
So for us, we're tracking the GPAC units that have been sort of around in the industry for many, many years. So I've worked in the auto parts and accessories for 10 plus years. And in main, it's relatively controlled, but tracking just such things such as GPACs does come with a major challenge and control in and around it. So for us, we do send a lot of items in these units, and those parts and accessories are expensive, as well as the GPAC units. So for a customer such as ours, like Mitsubishi, we do over about 200 deliveries a day to all of the dealers out of 2 separate warehouses. And some of the larger dealers can take up to about 4 of these GPAC units. So just as an example, like one of the big, larger customers for Mitsubishi is in Newcastle, which we dispatch every night. It arrives in about 6:30 a.m. in the morning. But at the same time, they're also getting other OEMs into that network as well. And that dealer could hand back ours, could hand back others, and it just really pulls together into one big pool of assets.
So is that sort of the problem, Michael, in that the industry is using your pooled assets, yep, but they're going to common dealers? So does that create its own set of problem?
Yeah, look, absolutely it does. And that's why we wanted to really transition away from that standard type of pooling to a more uniquely identifiable asset, and giving customers the opportunity to track their assets with this solution really will help the way that the industry tracks pooled assets ongoing.
Sure. And what about issues like loss?
Yeah, absolutely. So losses are one of the key reasons why we wanted to start off with the tracking solution. So putting on a tracking device onto these assets will help mitigate the risk of loss.
And that loss could be physical loss, or it could just be, physical loss was the wrong thing, actually damage of the unit, or could just be it's lost. We don't know where it is for a while.
Yeah, look, in both instances, what it will do is it will obviously give you transparency as to where those units are, but also if those units are being damaged in your supply chain, it will give you, again, transparency as to where those stillages have been, so you can recover that loss or that damage if required.
So if there are assets stuck somewhere and you don't know where they are, what does that mean, Caine, for the size of the fleet and how you're servicing your customers?
Yeah, well, I suppose for our customer in the early days with Mitsubishi, we worked close with them, and what we saw and observed, there was a pool of assets that that started off around about 30% more of what we had and used today. So the management, I suppose, or the reduction of the fleet has really come via the tracking units, because we're able to identify where they are and their use through the network. And like I said earlier, it's mainly controlled, but there are the challenges of controlling it. So it allows us to control it and make it visible, make it a lot more visible for us to use. Apart from that, the damage that you did mention, the asset is around about $2,000 a unit to recover. So whilst it can go missing in the network, it is our responsibility, as it's our asset, to make sure that we do understand where that does occur. And without that, at one point we were looking in the early days of about 100 units missing. So we then had to apply a lot of resource, a dedicated person to go around finding the units, chasing the units, tracking the units prior to applying the Thinxtra unit to the unit.
So what sort of expenditure is there on time and other things chasing, say, 100 units you've lost?
Yeah, so I mean, we probably invested at least 3 months to 6 months of pure person power, not including the time, the effort, the accommodations, the travels, the relentless amount of phone calls, the follow-ups, the chasing. So there a lot of hidden costs that people don't factor into the unit. They just see it as the first upfront price, and then that's it. But in managing that whole process, it's very expensive, but with the unit is actually allowed and removed a lot of that angst from certainly my team and the business of where those assets are at the moment.
So do you get recovery of any of those costs? When you go back to your customer and say, oh, we've lost 100 and we're deploying a person, and do you get recovery of that?
No, the simple answer is we don't. It's it really, because it's our asset to manage, and we're providing a service to any one of those customers. So to be honest in speaking, from I suppose our perspective, it'd be a lot easier for our customers to manage those assets directly other than us. But it is a part of what we do. And this has just enabled us to make that traceability, the managing of that asset a lot more easier and I suppose a lot more user-friendly.
Sure, and I guess, Michael, so is that one of the keys to why you've done this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Caine spoke of, having this opportunity to go live, so to speak, with a soft launch with Active has really enabled us to understand the value that this adds. So it's not only just about the risk of losing equipment, but it's how else we can add value with making sure that you can track this equipment, free up those bottlenecks in your supply chain. It's been a journey that we've been on now for 5 years, and while we partnered with Anthony and Thinxtra, because again, this is going to be a game changer to how our customers can get extra value out of tracking these equipment.
Is that how you see it, Anthony? Because I guess, we've got an operator, to your right, and then we've got the provider on your left, and having been in the industry, it'd be easy for most people to say LOSCAM make money either way. They make money through renting it, or they make money through other people losing it. So your involvement, what have you noticed?
Well, I mean, for me, I think it's a fantastic use case of how IoT can deliver shared value. In LOSCAM's case, they're really focused on customer experience and delivering their customer Active a great customer experience. So to your point, yes, they win either way because they're leasing out the units, but removing some of the friction for that process has enabled them to win a more loyal and better customer relationship. So it's a great example of IoT in action from a customer experience perspective. Obviously on operational side, With active, you're tracking less stillages, but again, you're removing a lot of friction with your customers because you're not having to chase them for lost stillages. So this is why we do it. This is why Thinxtra are involved, because we love to see shared value amongst our customers and our customers' customers and through the whole value chain. And this is a perfect example, and it can be applied equally to other asset classes and to other elements of the supply chain. So it's a real game changer, as we put it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we're going to take another short break, and then after that, we're going to come back and discuss some of the learnings and the benefits from the process so far. Welcome back. So now the last question really for the panel is, what have you learnt and what benefits have come along that perhaps you didn't see? Yep. So basically, Caine, the sort of questions I'm trying to get behind is, did the IoT solution pay off? Yep. What challenges did you see? Because an operating environment always throws them at us. And what benefits did you get that you didn't expect?
Yeah, so I suppose for me the simple answer is yes, it has paid off. And just like as I alluded to earlier, you know, the hidden cost in managing, tracking, following up prior to us not having the units with the Thinxtra tracking on was very challenging. So really broadly spoken, it's a benefit. The good thing is it was a 4-way collaboration project. I think like Anthony and Michael have said, but also it's just not the three of us. It was actually our customer, Mitsubishi, who sat with us and took a very mature approach through the implementation in something that was quite new and innovative to the GPAC units, which has never really been done before. So the other part of it is that a lot of customers, they focus on that upfront cost. So they just look at the raw number, oh, that's $1. But it's all the hidden costs, like we keep repeating. It's the administration, it's the follow-up, it's the chasing, that really what this has done is actually added all of that back-end value that a lot of people don't see. So again, for us, it was really good to be a part of this, and in LOSCAM taking that strategic approach in asset managed tracking and Thinxtra being a part of it. So yeah, it's been really good for us.
Okay, and Michael?
It's been a really fantastic journey to be a part of. We have learned so much along the journey. Caine spoke about, obviously, the innovation and customer, and this is what it's really about. It's really about being customer-centric and providing added value to our customers' supply chains. So really what we've found is not only are we mitigating the risk of losing equipment, improving how customers manage their equipment, but we're adding value with reporting and understanding the supply chain movement of their products from a security aspect, but also increasing the flow. So we've seen a reduction in units being hired out by our customers. It's a win-win situation. Our customers are able to reduce the fleet of equipment that they've required to service their customer, but it enables us to redeploy those units elsewhere as well. So again, it's really about being customer-centric. We're now well down the journey of having our own online platform, which will launch in Q1 of 2021. And again, that's more about adding value to our customer and how they actually manage this equipment ongoing.
Excellent. And so, has it been tricky in your shoes because you've got units hired out to other parties, other OEMs, who move parts and accessories? Then you've got them hired out with trackers on them to active, and then where there's been units travelling in each other's networks, has that been challenging in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. With any new product, it's been challenging, obviously, bringing it to market. And it's about educating not only our customers, but the industry as a whole. And that will definitely take some time. However, again, we're very focused on making sure this is about, providing added value for the customer. And we see this as really being the step forward in regards to asset management. And it's not a short-term solution, it's a long-term solution.
Cool. And I think, Caine, you mentioned about dealers. Now, of course, in this supply chain, there's people who are owning and moving the assets, and then there's the dealers who simply receive the assets. So how have they responded?
Well, the dealers overall have, I suppose, responded apprehensively at the start, because I suppose the industry as a whole has somewhat just adopted or accepted that these units are a generalised pool for everybody to use because of the nature of tracking or tracing them without the technology that sits behind it. So once we were able to get that technology applied to the unit and to the asset, it made it the conversations a lot easier to go out to the dealers to say, this is where the unit is, this is where it's been, and we can see this within 20 metres of your facility or a particular area. So it has been really good. And throughout the journey, we've been able to now to get to more dealers to discuss that asset with them and the management of them. And also we're able to educate a lot more. And also a part of it, what really does go probably misinterpreted within the industry is there is no financial skin in the game. So people just see that as a unit. I think they see it as LOSCAM's unit only, and at some point it'll come back to LOSCAM. So they really now understand the value and I suppose their role and responsibility in this asset management program.
And so to you, Anthony, what are some of the challenges and learnings that Thinxtra have seen?
Yeah, so look, being part of such a diverse supply chain that's literally across the whole East Coast, we expected to see some challenges with the network and the coverage, but I think that the outcomes that you've been able to receive, Caine, and both in terms of loss prevention and loss recovery and just the visibility that you've had throughout the network, which from all your feedback to me has been certainly adequate. So that was a really pleasant surprise and a good testimony of both the performance and the breadth of the coverage of the network. As a learning experience, I think for us, we're technology experts, so we understand the technology intimately well. What the great learning for us was getting real domain expertise into supply chain and what's important to LOSCAM and what's important to Active and your customers, so that we can help apply that technology expertise to solve the problems specific to your industry, and hopefully we take that forward and then apply that to other asset classes and customers of LOSCAM and other asset classes with other customers as well.
Fantastic. And I think Michael, you mentioned that the front end piece is still a work in progress. Yep. So what would people watching this expect to see in that area in, say, 6 to 12 months? Yep.
Sure. So in Q1 of 2021, we're going to be going live with our portal, and that's being integrated into our LOSCAM online system. So that will ensure that customers, whether it be a closed loop scenario or our standard pooling customers, will have that ability to be able to access the track and trace component on most of our high value assets.
I guess that'll sort out some of the issues you saw, Caine, with it just being a little bit point in time.
Yeah, very much just point in time, absolutely.
Very good. So I guess the question of the day was whether IoT is a game changer. Yep. So Anthony, how would you sum it up? Is it sort of the hype that a lot of people have talked about? Because there's big numbers of 15 billion worth of value being thrown around, or are you seeing it really is a game changer in the supply chain?
Well, I think for this one small example that Michael and Caine have given about the experience that they've had, and I think Michael will agree that LOSCAM are just starting out on their IoT journey and already they're reaping this value. So there's a long way to go for them, which I think is reflective of the broader industry. But if I look at other customers that we've had things to do with, we're seeing scale really skyrocket now. Convoy Kegs has recently connected 70,000 kegs with a tracker, a very similar solution to what Michael is doing. And so we're starting to see that scale that everyone's been talking about for such a long time. So we're not quite at the 15 trillion, but we're well on the way. And Thinxtra is really dedicated to helping us get there. And we've got a network in Australia to support that, but this network also reaches globally. So with 70 countries covered globally with the same network technology. So really it's not just a local supply chain issue, it's a global supply chain issue, and we're contributing to efficiency that's going to see IoT become the game changer that it's promised to for many years.
Fantastic. Well, that's about it for this episode, but I just wanted to thank everybody. And just encourage everyone watching, reach out to Thinxtra, reach out to LOSCAM, reach out to Active. There should be some links coming up on your screen from us here at IETV. And if this session has sparked any questions or you've got any challenges you want to raise, please reach out. I'm absolutely sure the expert panel will help you take those challenges and opportunities forward. Thanks again for your time, guys.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Think about the clothes you're wearing, the food you're eating, or even the furniture in your home. There is a story and history associated with every product you've ever bought. Unfortunately, sometimes the workers who make your products are subjected to terrible working conditions, are not treated fairly, or the manufacturing process is harmful to the environment. There are many forms of modern slavery and damaging production methods, but it's up to us, industry leaders and the consumers themselves, to take a stand so that we can contribute to a healthier planet and to changing the lives of everyone involved across the global supply chains for the better. Ethical Trade Alliance enables buyers to make informed choices on all of the products they purchase.